A Category 5 super typhoon just tore through United States territory in the Pacific, and the people in its path were already living in tents. Super typhoon Bobby made landfall on the island of Rota in the northern Mariana Islands, with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. Flash floods are being reported across the territory. Cars have been flipped. Structures that were still standing from the last disaster are now gone. And the most alarming part of this story is not the storm itself. It is the fact that this is the second super typhoon to hit this exact region in less than 3 months. In April, super typhoon Sinlaku struck the northern Mariana Islands with 145-mile-per-hour winds at landfall. It killed 17 people, caused $1.5 billion in damage, and left more than 1,300 families living in tents because there was simply nowhere else to go. The power grid on the northern islands was destroyed. People were still waiting for basic services to be restored when the sky darkened again. And then Bobby arrived. The National Weather Service meteorologist coordinating the response described what is happening in the region as bringing it almost to a crippled state. Those are not the words of a scientist prone to exaggeration. That is the assessment of someone watching a community absorb 2 catastrophic blows within the span of a single season, with no meaningful recovery time in between. This video is going to explain what Super Typhoon Bobby actually is, why it became so powerful so quickly, what the connection to the El Niño system means for the rest of this season, and why what is happening in the northern Mariana Islands right now is not just a remote Pacific island story. It is a preview of what a warmer, more energized ocean does to the communities that sit in the path of its storms. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because this season is far from over. Let us start with the storm itself. Super Typhoon Bobby developed in the Western Pacific and underwent what meteorologists call rapid intensification, a process where a tropical cyclone's maximum sustained winds increased by at least 35 miles per hour within 24 hours. Bobby did considerably more than that. At its peak, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center measured maximum sustained winds of 270 kilometers per hour, approximately 168 miles per hour, making it one of the strongest tropical cyclones on the planet this year. 3 factors drove that intensification to such extreme levels. The first was ocean heat content. The sea surface temperatures beneath Bobby's track were running between 29 and 30 degrees Celsius, warm enough to fuel aggressive tropical development. But surface temperature alone does not tell the full story. What matters equally is how deep that warm water extends below the surface. When a typhoon moves over the ocean, it stirs the water beneath it. If the warm layer is shallow, that stirring brings cold water up from depth, cutting off the storm's fuel supply and limiting intensification. But if the warm water extends deep, measured in a unit called ocean heat content, the storm can keep drawing energy even as it churns the ocean beneath it. Bobby's track took it over water with an ocean heat content exceeding 110 kilojoules per square centimeter. That is an enormous reservoir of heat available to the storm at depth, and Bobby exploited it fully. The second factor was wind shear. Wind shear, the change in wind speed and direction at different levels of the atmosphere, is the primary natural brake on tropical cyclone intensity. High wind shear tilts a storm's structure, ventilates its core, and prevents the organized convection that sustains a powerful cyclone. During Bobby's peak intensification phase, wind shear along its track was remarkably low, between 5 and 10 knots. The atmosphere essentially gave the storm an open road. The third factor is the one with the most long-term significance. Bobby formed and intensified during a developing El Niño event, one that current model guidance suggests may reach the very strong or even historically unprecedented superlevel by later this year. During El Niño, the Western Pacific's typhoon formation zone shifts eastward, away from Asia, into warmer waters in the Central Pacific. That shift means that storms forming in this region have more open ocean to travel across before reaching land, more time to intensify, more ocean fuel to draw from, and in many cases more extreme peak intensities before landfall. Bavi is precisely the kind of storm that an El Niño environment is designed to produce. And with the El Niño signal still building, it will almost certainly not be the last. The Northern Mariana Islands sit at a particularly vulnerable position in the Western Pacific. The chain of islands, a United States Commonwealth territory, lies directly in the primary typhoon corridor, the track that developing Western Pacific storms most commonly follow. Guam, the largest and most populated island in the region, is home to major United States military installations and roughly 170,000 civilians. The Northern Mariana Islands, including Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, have a combined civilian population of approximately 50,000 people. These communities have always lived with typhoon risk, but what is happening in 2026 has pushed beyond what the infrastructure and recovery systems of these islands were designed to absorb. Sinlaku in April was the 10th Category 4 or 5 tropical cyclone to hit a United States state or territory in the past decade. That number, 10 Category 4 and 5 landfalls on U.S. territory in 10 years, equals the total number of such landfalls the United States suffered in the previous 57 years combined. That single statistic captures something important about what is changing in the Pacific. When Sinlaku hit in April, it did not simply damage buildings, it destroyed the power grid across the northern islands. It wiped out roads, it collapsed structures that families had lived in for decades. And the recovery, the clearing of debris, the restoration of power, the rebuilding of homes, takes months under ideal circumstances. The Northern Mariana Islands did not have ideal circumstances. They had limited construction resources, a constrained budget, and a federal recovery system that, despite its scale, takes time to mobilize and deploy at the level a full Category 5 recovery requires. 3 months later, more than 1,300 families were still living in tents. And then Bavi arrived with 150-mile-per-hour winds. The psychological and physical toll of what is happening in this region is difficult to overstate. Emergency managers responding to back-to-back Category 5 events in the same season describe a situation where the normal recovery timeline has simply collapsed. There is no buffer. There is no period of stability between disasters in which communities can rebuild their strength, their infrastructure, and their capacity to absorb the next blow. The disasters are arriving faster than the recovery. And this dynamic, successive disasters with insufficient recovery time between them, is one of the most dangerous patterns that climate scientists have identified in vulnerable regions worldwide. A single major disaster is devastating but survivable. Communities have demonstrated remarkable resilience after single catastrophic events throughout history. But compounding disasters, arriving before the previous wounds have healed, operate on a fundamentally different logic. Each successive blow finds a community that is already weakened, already depleted of resources, already suffering from the accumulated trauma of what came before. The people living in tents on Saipan and Rota when Bavi arrived were not starting from a position of strength. They were starting from the lowest point they had occupied in decades. And into that vulnerability, a Category 5 super typhoon arrived with 150-mile-per-hour winds and a storm surge that erased what little had survived the previous disaster. This is the pattern that climate scientists have been projecting for the Western Pacific for years. Not simply more typhoons in raw numbers. The total count of tropical cyclones globally has remained relatively stable, but a shift toward more extreme storms at the top of the intensity scale. More Category 4 and 5 events, faster intensification, storms reaching their peak intensity closer to populated coastlines, leaving less time for warning systems to activate and residents to evacuate. The physics behind this shift are well understood. A warmer ocean stores more energy. That energy is available to tropical cyclones as they pass over the surface. The relationship between sea surface temperature and maximum potential cyclone intensity is a direct one. Warmer water, higher ceiling on how powerful a storm can become. And with global ocean temperatures running at record or near record levels across large portions of the Pacific and Atlantic, that ceiling has been rising. Bavi's central pressure at peak intensity reached 910 millibars. For context, pressure in a tropical cyclone is inversely related to intensity. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. The most intense Atlantic hurricane ever recorded, Hurricane Patricia in 2015, reached 872 millibars. Bobby, while not approaching that absolute extreme, reached a pressure and wind speed combination that places it firmly among the most powerful tropical cyclones to strike United States territory in the modern record. What happens to the communities on Rota, Saipan, Tinian, and Guam in the coming days and weeks will follow a pattern that has become tragically familiar from other major tropical cyclone disasters. The immediate phase involves search and rescue, finding people who could not evacuate, addressing medical emergencies, and establishing the basic supply chains for food, water, and shelter. This phase is dangerous because roads are often impassable, debris blocks access routes, and the infrastructure that rescue teams depend on, communications towers, helicopter landing zones, port facilities, may itself have been damaged or destroyed by the storm. The second phase is damage assessment. Engineers and emergency managers systematically inspect structures to determine what is safe to occupy, what can be repaired, and what must be demolished. After a Category 5 impact, a significant proportion of structures in the direct path typically fall into the third category. The debris from those structures then becomes a logistical challenge in itself, material that must be cleared, categorized, and disposed of before reconstruction can begin. The third phase, reconstruction, is where most communities discover the true depth of the challenge. Insurance systems, federal recovery programs, and local government resources all have limits. After a single major disaster, those systems are stressed but functional. After 2 Category 5 events in 3 months, they are operating at the edge of their capacity, and the communities they serve are starting from a much weaker baseline. The meteorologist on the ground in the Northern Mariana Islands said it directly. The typhoons this year are bringing the region almost to a crippled state, and the season is not over. The peak of the Western Pacific typhoon season runs from July through October. Bobby struck in early July, the statistical heart of the season, when ocean temperatures are at their warmest and atmospheric conditions are most favorable for intense cyclone development, lies ahead. With the El Niño signal continuing to build in the Central Pacific, driving warmer waters eastward and creating the atmospheric conditions that favor stronger storms forming further from Asia, the environment that produced Sinlaku in April and Bobby in July is not going away. It is intensifying. The Northern Mariana Islands and Guam are United States territory. The people living in tents there hold United States passports. What is happening to them this season is not a distant Pacific catastrophe with no connection to the rest of the world. It is a direct demonstration of what happens when a community is struck by extreme weather events faster than it can recover, and of what a more energized, warmer Pacific Ocean is capable of producing when the conditions align. This season is still building. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next update on what is happening in the Pacific will come sooner than anyone in the Northern Mariana Islands would want.